In this video, we're going to talk about frequency distributions for qualitative data. That's our categorical data. And what we want to do is see how we can organize this data into a table called a frequency distribution. So the frequency is just the number of times a category occurs in the data set. So in other words, count them up. How many blue eyes do we have? How many brown eyes do we have? How many green eyes do we have? Those are the frequencies. Now, like I said, a frequency distribution is a table that presents the frequency for each category. So let's look at this example. A questionnaire on housing arrangements showed this information obtained from 25 respondents. Create a frequency distribution from the data. So we have house, condominium, house, mobile home, house, condominium, mobile home, condominium, apartment, mobile home. And so what we want to do is we just want to count how many times house shows up, how many times condominium shows up, how many times mobile home, and how many times apartment show up. So if I go through here and I look at house, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times that house shows up. So I'm going to write a 6 in for the frequency of house. Then I'm going to look at apartments. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times that apartments show up. So I'm going to put a 5 there. Then I will look at mobile homes. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have 6 mobile homes. And then condominiums, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I have 8 condominiums. And what I want to do is I always want to make sure, does this add up to our total? So if I add those up, I have a total of 25, which is what I want because it tells me that there's 25 respondents, and if I count up here, there's 25. So I have my frequency distribution. Well, sometimes when we're talking about frequency distributions, we also want to know about the relative frequency. That's the proportion of items in the category. So when we talk about proportions, what we're talking about is our frequency divided by our total number. So remember that when we were discussing samples and everything, we determined that N was our sample size. That's our frequency. So that should actually be our total number, N. And then our frequency, we tend to use the letter F for frequency. So for relative frequency, we just take the frequency divided by the total number, and we usually round to 3 decimals. So I'll say round to 3 decimals. So when we're talking about relative frequency, it is always a number between 0 and 1. Should never go over 1 or anything. And so we need to look at what information and everything we're talking about. So I'm going to look at the housing arrangements, and we had 6, 5, 6, 8 as our frequency. So I'm going to do 6, 5, 6, 8 with our N being 25. So if I come over here to the side and I look at housing for the relative frequency, that's going to be 6 divided by 25, and that gives me, let's see here, 6 divided by 25 is equal to 0.24. So that's 0.24. I'm going to go ahead and introduce, this is the same thing as 24%, because when we're looking at percentages, we move the decimal place over twice So this is approximately 24%. When we're doing relative frequencies, we leave it in the decimal form though, okay? Now let's look at the apartment. And so the apartment was 5 divided by 25. And so if I take 5 divided by 25, I get 0.2. Notice I'm not having to round these because they're coming out to exactly 2 or 3 decimal places. Now for mobile home, that's actually kind of easy because it's the same as the house. So I can just put 0.24. I can, over here, show my work by saying 6 divided by 25 is equal to 0.24. Now for the condominium, that's going to be 8 divided by 25, and that's going to be 0.32. So I've got 0.32. A way to check this, whenever you're talking about relative frequencies, is to, again, add them up and see they should come out as close to 1 as possible. Now, whenever you have to round or anything, they may come out to a little bit over 1 or a little bit under 1. But in this case, since we didn't have to round anything, it came out to exactly 1. And so this is what we're talking about when we're talking about relative frequencies or frequency distributions for qualitative or categorical data. We just want to put the numbers there and then find out what their relative frequency is. So try a few of these and then let me know if you have any questions.